If it is after a AEW pay-per-view or a WWE premium live event, that must mean it is Wrestling Night in America. I am, of course, your host, Brandon LeClair, and we are here tonight really, if you're on the East Coast, it's already this morning, to talk about AEW Double or Nothing 2025. It was a marathon of a show, as those of us joining us can probably tell. We're not getting on the air until just after 12:40 Eastern time. The show went off the air at 12:30 Eastern time, so a 4.5 hour main card tonight for AEW. I know that NXT also had a pay-per-view tonight, or a PLE tonight. NXT Battleground aired opposite of AEW. So we are, of course, not talking about that show. Those of us here chatting about this one haven't seen it yet, unfortunately, or perhaps my co-hosts have if they had it on, in the background. But I certainly have not, because I have just wrapped up my coverage for pwtorch, covering Double or Nothing. So we are here, of course, to talk Double or Nothing. I'm going to bring on a couple of co-hosts here. First, of course, is my official co-host for this show, pwtorch contributor Frank Peteani. Glad to have you back, Frank. Always good to do these shows with you. How's it going?
Excellent. Always good to do these shows with you, Brandon. Appreciate the invitation. And I can guarantee you I did not have NXT Battleground on as a New York Knicks fan and a New York Mets fan. With the Knicks and Pacers in Game 3 and the Mets playing the Dodgers on ESPN, there was zero chance Battleground would be on. So, yeah.
Inside baseball here, behind the scenes at the Torch Wrestling Night in America. Frank did text me a couple of times with some pictures of his setup for the evening. As the resident Knicks fan, he had to, of course, have an eye on that. I appreciate certainly you agreeing to do this, despite it being Game 3 of a very important Eastern Conference final. But we're glad to have you here.
Excellent. Appreciate you having me as always, my friend.
For sure. We're also going to bring on regular contributor to these post shows, longtime pwtorch VIP member who's going to help talk through this one. Sean from Murfreesboro, welcome back, my friend. Glad to have you here.
No, it's good to be here. It's been a tough weekend. I was telling Frank, and I didn't tell you, Brandon, off air, but my uncle passed away this morning, so it's been kind of a rough day. It's been a lot of just emotions going on, but it was fun to, just have a show just kind of kick back to. And it's been fun, but it's always good to be on here with you guys talking wrestling. So thanks for having me on again. Let me be on with you.
Yeah, of course. Sorry to hear that, of course, but it certainly is. That's what wrestling is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an escape and a way to kind of turn your brain off from the rest of the world for a few hours, or in the case of tonight, 4.5 hours. We'll get into whether or not that is a good or a bad thing. Members in the chat, always happy to get your comments up on screen and kind of help lead the conversation some. So VIP members, of course, are more than welcome to call in. The link is available on my report for pwtorch, Double or Nothing. I believe it's usually on Wade Keller's as well. So if you're missing that link, you can go ahead and find it there if you did want to join us as a video or an audio caller. Everyone else in the chat, of course, free to make comments, recommend things as well. And like I said, we'll get them up on the screen here as we go. Guys, I want to start here with the main event, and then we will work through this thing chronologically. I think there's a few matches on this card that we can spend a particular amount of time on, and then there's some stuff in between that we can probably breeze through. But certainly going to want to do plenty of discussion here about the main event. So let's start there. We have Will Ospreay facing Hangman Adam Page in the Owen Hart Foundation Men's Tournament Final. The tournament finals bookended this show. We had the men's closing the show. We had the women's opening the show. So we'll talk about that one in just a little bit. But the main event here, it goes quite long, 37 minutes, just a hair over 37 minutes. And Hangman Page surprisingly, at least for me, the winner here in just over 37 minutes. I thought for sure that this was Will Ospreay's match to win. It felt to me as though he was on a crash course for the Jon Moxley title match at All In Texas. But that is obviously not the case. It's going to be Hangman Adam Page. Frank, I'll throw to you first. What do you think of the result? What did you think of the match?
I thought the result was right. I think you have to go with Hangman Page at this point. As far as the match is concerned, the match was crazy. Really, it was long. It's 37 minutes, and especially after a long pay-per-view, you kind of get like, all right, guys, is this going to end anytime soon? It's late, but that's not their fault. It's just unfortunately how the boss lays it out. But I thought it was really good. Couple of scary spots that I'm sure we'll get into, with the Styles Clash to the outside and the table breaking. I know this is going to ring to Sean's heart, but a little bit of, I don't know if no selling is the right term, but, after taking some heavy moves, Ospreay just gets up and he's okay, seconds later. So, but, that's to be expected with those kinds of matches. But I thought they told a really good story. And you know what? I think Hangman's the right decision. Ospreay's a guy that's going to be fine. He's popular. The crowd loves him and things like that. But you really have to capitalize on Hangman. You have to capitalize on the redemption story that they've been telling with him. Because there's really, if you have him lose, I don't know what you have him do after this. And especially the story that they're telling with Moxley, with kind of keeping the title, hidden in the briefcase and things like that. Hangman's an original, and this is the 6-year anniversary, so it makes sense that Hangman would win the match. There's no CM Punk in the way this time. If they're going to go the way of Hangman winning the championship, I think it's the right decision. We'll see. That's to come down the line. But yeah, overall, really pleased with the. And I'm not that. I mean, I actually had Ospreay winning as well, but I would not have been surprised if Hangman won, and here we are.
Yeah, Kyle in the chat making the comment, AEW needs more story and compelling stories. Hangman's journey leans on that way more than Ospreay's journey. And I do agree in that sense. I mean, Hangman Page is one of the better long-term stories that this company has told. I would say in the company's history. I think that there has been a really, really strong creative direction for Hangman virtually every step of the way. Even if I didn't necessarily agree with some of the, there was some waffling, there was some wavering there on the tail end of the Swerve Strickland stuff where you could tell the audience wanted to cheer him again, but there was some resistance there, and it was questionable as to whether or not they were going to go in the direction of just fully buying into the idea of him as a babyface again. I'm glad that they did, and I'm glad that they gave him a sense of purpose and a sense of direction coming out of that, where he really explained himself in one of the many excellent promos that he had with Ospreay along the way here. I am fine with Hangman coming out on top here because I think that he is incredibly important to the direction that this company is looking to go in. Frank, to your point, I think that there is something to be said about the redemption arc for him, and him being the one to, he finally completes his redemption with a win over Jon Moxley at All In. I also see that there is, there's a groundswell under Will Ospreay. There has been for a very long time. I've said on this show for months and months with a number of co-hosts, I've repeated myself many times. I think this company should be in the Will Ospreay business. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he needs to be world champion, but he needs to be at the top of the card. And that's what he was tonight. And so, is Ospreay going to be hurt by a loss here? No, I don't think so. but I do wonder how long you can kick the can down the road on crowning Will Ospreay as your world champion. Sean, follow up on that and anything you want to talk about regarding the finish and the match itself.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say. So, but let's go to the match itself. The match itself was great. I mean, Osprey. I've said many times. I'm having to get used to that's how his matches are. They're just him at times no selling moves and getting up super quick, and both guys do. I mean, Hangman and this match kind of did at certain points. I mean, it's just the way the matches go. But they tell really good stories in the matches, and so like I was okay with it. It was weird. Osprey, you felt like that little bit of he wants to win so bad he's, slapping Bryce's hand back, like, oh, kind of getting in his face. And that was like, okay, that's a little surprising. I'm surprised they're going that route, but I think it was just more of he wants to win that bad. He just, he's gonna get a little edgy, but his goal is to win this Owen. It means the world to him. And I thought his promo on Wednesday, Hangman was fine, but Osprey I thought was fantastic. I think Osprey as a character has come around so much, investing you in his matches and wanting to win that title, and it meant so much to him. I think you have to go. You should have gone with Osprey here. I think this is the best. Now again, I have nothing against Hangman. Everything you guys have talked about is right on as far as if you're trying to fit the quote unquote story of Hangman's the original guy in AEW, which I think is a dumb story to begin with. But if you're going to go that route, he's technically the one. But Osprey, he's hot right now. He's the biggest star to me in your company. I think now was the time to go with him. He's lost, guys. I'm not saying he can't ever lose. He's lost a lot of big matches already, and this is another really big match that he lost. And my other question too is, so what does he do it All In? There's nothing for him to do. There's nobody else for him to go against unless you're just going to have some random match with him just to have a great match. And that's what All In, or that's what these pay-per-views I feel like they're doing lately is, we're just going to have two guys with no build, and we'll talk about that later too. But I just think they made overall the wrong decision. Even though I love Hangman and I think his character's in a good spot, he's won the title once before. Yes, the redemption story is okay, but the way they're telling the story is just kind of like, it's not for me, but it could be for a lot of people. I just think they made the wrong decision here, and I was already kind of disappointed with some stuff, and then this kind of like, even though I like Hangman, I think you need to be, as you said, Brandon, in the Will Ospreay business, he needs to be your champion now. You had the chance. He had a great promo Wednesday, and now where do you go with him? I hope they have a great story with him going forward in the next year because he's too good not to. He's just too good.
Yeah, I don't want Tony Khan to get into the business of thinking that Osprey is Teflon forever.
Yeah,
because if they don't pull the trigger on him, eventually the bloom is going to come off
how
the
hot
rose.
could he be? And what if he doesn't get as hot, or what he's not as hot in a year from now?
And they're lucky that to this point it hasn't been a problem because I think that they've handled him relatively well. I mean, I don't know what Osprey is at All In. I mean, it feels like he has to be on the card, but right now, to me, it might make a little bit more sense if he's just a guy who is trying to make sure that Page finishes the job and beats Moxley. And that's kind of what it almost sounded like they were going to do, based on the promo that they had on Wednesday. I do think that they run this back probably at Forbidden Door, given that is the London show this year. So at that point, it's a title match then, and does Osprey win it a month later? They've been having long title reigns. I wouldn't necessarily put it past AEW to pull the trigger on something like that. And maybe we end the summer with Osprey as world champion anyway. And, I'm not opposed to going that route either. The only thing that does is puts Hangman in a precarious position because he's just become this reestablished babyface. He then, ends the big bad reign of Jon Moxley. and only holds the title for give or take a month. That kind of sets a character up for maybe a heel turn, and that's obviously not where they need to go. Frank, I mean, where do you see coming out of this? What makes sense for Ospreay?
I would not rule out. I'm not sure Hangman's winning the title at All In.
Oh, don't even talk. Don't even bring that up, please. Please.
I'm not sure he
Don't
is.
do it.
Well,
Don't do
you
it.
just brought it up. Ospreay at Forbidden Door. You know, what if you don't go with Hangman, but you go with Ospreay at Forbidden Door?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what you do. I don't know, you know, because there was talk of, you know, and we'll get to it, Anarchy in the Arena with Swerve pinning, I think it was Nicholas, right? So there's been the talk of Hangman and Swerve circling each other and then coming together to take on the Bucks. So, you know, what if that's the pivot? If Hangman doesn't win the championship, he pivots to teaming with Swerve.
I thought that's where they were going for All In. That's where I thought they were going.
Right. And then somehow you get Ospreay back into the number one spot, and he takes on Moxley, and he beats Moxley at Forbidden Door. I mean, because the other way you do it is Moxley beats Moxley, or Hangman beats Moxley, and then Ospreay beats Hangman. Do you want a 1 month title reign? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the chat is very much convinced that Hangman is 100% going over here. I'm inclined to agree with Goodfella, who said Mox's winning percentage goes up with Hangman being the guy to advance. I would not give anything higher than a 5% chance of Moxley retaining against Ospreay. I think that number is higher against Hangman. I don't think it's high.
Right.
I still think the likelihood is on Page, but I think
it's more.
I think it's much more possible that Moxley were to win against Hangman. And for what it's worth, I'm not voting for that. I have been an advocate of, and am still an advocate of, getting the title off of Jon Moxley by any means necessary as quickly as possible. I think that it has been a unmitigated disaster from the start, and it's been dragging the entire company down. And I just think it's time. You've got to move on. Whatever that looks like. If it's Hangman, if it's Ospreay, you've just got to pull the trigger. One thing, I think that we've said a lot about the match already. I thought the match was excellent. I get that there's starting to be some aversion to the Will Ospreay style, high level match where there is a lot of finisher spamming. In this one, they actually started stealing other guys' moves, other guys' finishers, or at least trying to. I mean, they hit a V trigger. Ospreay went for a one-winged angel, but Page was able to slip free of it, and he ended up hitting one of Swerve's signatures. So there was a lot going on in this one. Thought it made sense for the story that they were trying to tell. And one moment here that I really, really liked, that I actually thought was going to be the finish, and honestly, I probably would have preferred as the finish, was the stand-up across the ring, where it looks like Page is going to hit the buckshot lariat, but Ospreay collapses against the ropes, and he's too far away for Hangman to try it. So they stand up, and Ospreay takes his elbow pad off, and Page takes his off, and they're basically signaling that they're both going to go for their finish, and the guy that hits it is going to win. And they did the spot, but it didn't lead to the finish. And I thought it would have been a really creative finish, because they spent the last couple of weeks talking about how, meet me in the desert for a gunfight, basically. And this was, for all intents and purposes, this was a draw. This was the gunfight. I thought that would have been a really creative, really effective finish. It would have shaved like 5 minutes off of the match, which I don't think would have hurt. So that would have been my vote. But still, a very, very good, very, very good match overall for sure. And a fitting main event. One of the things that I liked most about this show is that Jon Moxley has held these pay-per-views hostage since October of last year with terrible main event after terrible main event after terrible main event. And we finally got away from that with an excellent one. And that was a big deal.
If I could say something now, I want to clarify one thing I said before. I said I'm not sold that Hangman's winning this title. That doesn't mean I think that's what should happen. I think Hangman Page should win this title at All In, 100%.
Right. Now, yeah.
And then you figure it out from there. I'm not
sure.
worried about. Yeah. I'm not worried about Forbidden Door right now. Okay.
No.
I'm not even worried about Ospreay. They'll figure it out. But Hangman Page should totally win this title. If he doesn't win this title, now you're dicking around, and I don't know what you're doing. Okay. Get the title off of Moxley, and then, and then we can move forward.
I want to see the title. I just want to see the title again.
Yeah, I mean, and you will. But the point is,
it's the best looking championship in wrestling.
I mean, it's to Brandon's point, it's been depressing. I mean, we even did the what was it, World's End, and that was the 4-way match, and that was depressing. And like every pay-per-view, the ending with what's his name there, Copeland, that was terrible. I mean, it was just it's one show after another. So.
You had the 4-way.
I have the book. Get the title on Hangman, and then we'll figure out what we're doing from there.
Yeah, it's nice to come into this and not feel completely deflated after a main event. I mean, that is a huge win in and of itself, because this Moxley era has been very, very deflating, and I think it has hurt the company as a whole to have an improved television product by and large, and consistently good pay-per-views that have been weighed down by a very, very poor main event scene. And by main event scene, I mean specifically the world title scene, because there's a lot of main event level wrestlers in AEW who have been cast aside in favor of this Death Riders angle. All right, let's. I'm sure we'll bring up this match again as we go through, but let's march through this thing chronologically. That's going to bring us to the first match of the night, which was the women's tournament final. So we're going from talking about the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament final to the women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament final. This one kicks off the show. It got into the ring very quickly. They were determined to get the action kicked off very quick. Didn't have the usual like introductions from Excalibur, introducing Taz and Tony Schiavone at ringside. They just went right to entrances, and that should have been our first hint that this was going to be a long night. So it's Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter facing off in the women's tournament finals. This one goes 21 minutes and 15 seconds. Mercedes Moné is your winner to win the tournament and to get herself a women's world title match at All In Texas. She wins it with a surprise roll-up, a small package for a 3 count. When they showed the replay, it almost kind of looked like it was a DDT of sorts, but it was kind of a roll-up. After the match, they do a thing where, or actually, no, sorry, thinking of the women's world title match later on in the night. But Moné runs from the ring after she wins, immediately just darts up the ramp. And she gets her moment in front of the camera where she says that she is coming for Toni Storm, or coming for the AEW World Women's Championship at All In. Frank, I'll throw to you first here. Talk about the match. Talk about the result here. What you think of Moné advancing and heading to All In Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was a choice. I think Mercedes was the one all the way. I mean, Tony wants to put his big matches on it All In. That's the focus right now. I mean, you look at Double or Nothing kind of used to be one of their premium shows, and now All In has kind of become that. So Double or Nothing kind of feels like a feeder at this point. So he was going to have he wants to have his big matches, and Tony and Mercedes is a big match. In fact, I could have made the case for Tony and Jamie, but there was no way that he wasn't going with this. I like that they kind of it started out kind of slow, and then it worked its way up to a pretty good pace. So I appreciated that. There was a couple of scary moments. Actually, the end, where it looked like Jamie landed right on her head. I was just like, whoa, hopefully she was okay. And then there was a Meteora to the outside that I thought looked a little dangerous. But other than that, the only other thing I wanted to ask you guys about was the Three Amigos spot. I mean, I know Mercedes does that a ton, and it is a babyface spot, not for nothing, paying tribute to Eddie. And if you're supposed to be a heel, you're supposed to be a heel. So people are going to cheer that. So I was kind of curious what you guys thought about that. But I liked it. And at the end, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get to the finish. They played into Jamie's back with that being an issue in the past, so I like that touch. And overall, one thing I did know, they almost did the Bret Hart Roddy Piper Mania 8 finish, where I think it was Jamie had Mercedes kind of in a chokehold or whatever, and then Mercedes rolled up, and it looked exactly like that. I didn't think that was going to end the match, but it would have been cool if it did. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think the right person went over.
Yeah, I do. I do too. I mean, I like Jamie Hayter a lot, and I think that she's talented. I think she has a place in this division. I think that she's been finding her footing after a long time away, and she's reestablishing herself with the crowd. But I think that this was always Monet's tournament to win. It just makes sense that at the biggest show of the year, or that you're purporting to be your biggest show of the year, I think that you want to have one of the biggest women's matches you can have on the table. And for all the incredible work that they've done with this women's division over the last several months, I think they deserve a moment where you get a match where it really feels like they could main event the show. And to me, Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné feels like a pay-per-view worthy main event, in the same way that I thought that Moné or that Storm and Mariah May should have main evented at Revolution, especially knowing what we got in that slot instead. But this feels like the money match that they have in that division that they've been working to for a long time. Feels like the right time to do it. I continue to be really impressed by Mercedes Moné in these big match situations. I think that for someone who came in with so much fanfare and then kind of landed with a bit of a thud for the first few months, I don't think the transition went as smoothly as they would have liked. I don't think the crowd reactions were as big as they would have hoped. And I don't think that she quite had the star power that they were expecting when she first showed up. But since that time, she's done a really good job at reestablishing herself as a big act. The company has done a really good job of framing her as a big act. And as a whole, the company has done a really good job creatively at redefining and reframing the women's division as being on par with some of the top men's titles. And I think that that's important, because for as talented as that AEW women's division has been for many years now, there's never been a sense that they were going to be a featured main event, or really could be. Whereas you have that in WWE, and you've had that for a long time. I think they're finally at that point. I think, we have Revolution, where I think the women should have main evented, and now you're going to have this match where I don't expect them to main event over Moxley and Hangman, but it feels like they could. It feels like it would be reasonable to put that match on last, given who the two stars are involved and how much work they've done to get there. I really liked the match. I thought Hayter was good for her part. Mercedes was great. It seems like they continue to do sort of roll-up finishes and cheap finishes with Moné. I don't know if that's because they just want to protect her opponent, or if it's because they don't like her finish. But I don't like her finish. Maybe that's just me projecting. I wish she would. I wish she'd transition away from the moneymaker. I don't think it looks good against any opponent, and I'm glad she didn't hit it tonight. Sean, take it away. Feelings on the match, feelings on the setup for All In.
As far as the setup, I mean, I'm definitely fine with it. I mean, I'm with you guys. I mean, this was the match to do. I feel like these are the two biggest stars for sure, and then after that, it gets kind of muddy. There's not a lot there that are being defined at a very very high level. That's what kind of makes me a little nervous. It feels like it's Tony and Mercedes, and everybody else is just kind of like, eh. And we saw that with apparently Megan Bain losing in the pre-show, like on a tag team. Like what? Like what are we doing? But anyway, that's another story. Think this is the way to go. I think the match I was a little lower on. It wasn't Mercedes' best match that she's had. It was fine. I mean, the first part was very slow, very very clunky. I thought it got better. It got physical. I mean, it was hard hitting, which I liked, but it definitely wasn't. It was just a good match to me. It wasn't anything spectacular. I would probably give it like 2.5, maybe 3 stars at best. I mean, it was fine for what it was. The ending, like I said, small package. I'm with you. I wish they'd get away from that a little bit. I think they go to that a little too much to try to, protect someone. But Jamie did well. I mean, I like Jamie. I think she is coming along. She is. When you miss that much time from being gone for, it is hard to get that back. But I think she is slowly getting it back, and I think she will. I think she's probably the biggest, other than Tony Mercedes. I think she's probably right there under them, kind of starting to ascend again. And Bane has that potential, but they seem like they're just kind of in la la land with her right now. But wherever that's going to go. But the match was fine. It did what it needed to do, and you got the match you needed to. It all in.
Want to before we move on from this one, I want to point to a comment in the chat, Kyle, saying crazy how much less over Jamie Hayter is. Why do you think that is? She was so over at one point. We've kind of touched on it a little bit here going in. Sean, you just kind of made mention of her being away for so long.
Yeah.
I think she's getting back to where she needs to be. The thing is that when Hayter was in the midst of her title run the first time around, that was a long time ago. We're a long ways away from that AEW women's division. So she was really standing out in a way that I don't think a lot of women were at the time. I mean, that we're talking all the way back in like the Britt Baker era.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
This is before Toni Storm really connects in a big way. This is before Mercedes Moné is there. This is before a lot of these big names cycle through and really start connecting with the audience. So she's behind the 8 ball quite a bit. And I think that she's getting back to where she was and will likely continue to ascend. I think that there's room for Hayter in this division. She has a genuine natural connection with the audience. She's really talented in the ring. She's got a good look. All the pieces are there. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time coming out of an injury that was that long into a division that has changed so drastically since we last saw her. I think it's just going to take some time. Frank, where do you stand on that?
No, it is. And, this is a division that was dominated by Britt Baker, as you said, for so long. And I don't think that other women were allowed or given a chance to shine because they were basically, all in on Britt. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she held a lot of people down behind the scenes,
Yeah,
so
that's fair. Yeah.
Now that, she's out of the way and, you've gotten your Toni Storms and you've gotten your Mercedes in there and women like that, you got others on the way up. I think it gives her an opportunity to stand out. And she even showed a little bit of personality in the match. Like at one point, she was mocking Mercedes, which I thought was a nice little touch, so
Yeah.
I think we got to give it a little bit of time. There are other women that are more over, obviously, and we hadn't seen Jamie in a while. So I think with time and I think with some promo work and some character work, I think she'll be there. I'm not sure that she's going to be at the top of the card, but maybe somebody that could slot in there at like the TBS, title level or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of women that they have in what I consider the tier 2 level right now that they can move up or down depending on how things go in the coming months and years. To me, tier one is really just Tony and Mercedes.
Yep.
I think that they are your firmly established tier one, and then tier two, I would have the likes of Jamie Hayter. I'd have Willow Nightingale in there for sure. I would have Chris Statlander in there. I'd have Mariah May in there. So there's a lot of Athena if they ever decide to use her in a meaningful way again.
That is the weirdest thing, man.
Yeah, just so strange. But they've got a lot of talented women in that tier two level. The way I'm ranking them, and I hope that at least a couple of them push themselves into tier one and make themselves undeniable in that way. I'm with Goodfella in the chat. Willow has top tier potential. To me, she's the one that stands out the most when I run down that list. I think Willow has developed a connection with the audience that is undeniable and one that can actually cement her in that top echelon with Tony and Mercedes, but she's still got a ways to go there too. Sean, anything you want to add about this one before we keep on moving on?
Nope, too many matches to cover. I'm good.
So after this one, Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and Taz send well wishes to Jim Ross, who of course announced very recently he's battling cancer. Forgive me, I forget which type. Do either of you remember? Is it prostate?
Bladder cancer, I want to say.
Gosh, I can't remember either. I can't remember.
Someone in the chat will likely know for certain. But in any case, best wishes to JR, of course.
Absolutely.
Then we get a promo for a tag team match for FTR with Stokely, who's no longer Stokely Hathaway, but just Stokely, facing Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia with Daddy Magic. FTR winners of this one in just over 22 minutes. This felt like it was a lifetime ago. A good match. I thought that it overstayed its welcome. 22 minutes on this felt a little over dramatic. I mean, I get that they're trying to tell a specific story with regard for Nigel and Tony Schiavone's relationship over on Collision, but it didn't feel to me like they needed 22 minutes to do this. Like I said, I thought it was a good match. I thought FTR played great heels. I'm really enjoying them in this role. I think they've done great stuff so far. I think that Stokely is a good mouthpiece for them, even though they can talk too. I like the way that Stokely is behaving with them. I like the way that the announcers were getting on their case. Funny moment with Cash Wheeler where at one point late in the match, Nigel is kind of choking him at ringside and is telling him to apologize to Schiavone. And he does so reluctantly because he's stuck in a choke. And then as soon as he regains control and tosses McGuinness away, he goes back to the table to tell Tony that he wasn't serious and in fact his fingers were crossed. I thought that was a cool moment. FTR has been doing some fun stuff on this heel run so far. Sean, I'll throw to you first. What did you think of the match? And what have you thought of FTR as heels?
So I definitely like FTR as heels. That was the way to go. The face run was not working. They weren't doing much with them in that way. So, like, turn them heels. They're really good as heels. They always have been. Going on Tony. The best thing about this was after this match, Tony was off commentary for a while. That was nice. That was really nice. I really enjoyed that. No, Stokely, I don't know if I like him with them yet. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, it's been good. It's been okay for me. But the match, it was good. I mean, I just thought would have been so much better if, and no offense to Daniel Garcia, but I would rather almost him get beat up and have Nigel get hot tags because the fans were into Nigel. They wanted to see Nigel do, and he was just getting beat down the whole match. And it was like, really, is this what we're doing? Like, Daniel Garcia's got nothing there. We're not into him. He's trying really hard. It's not like he's not, but I'm just not really into him. And so the match was hard hitting. It was good. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was, like you said, way too long. This could have, at 10 minutes, could have been cut off this, and it would have been just fine for me. But it was good. FTR needed the win, and they got it. And they're getting heat on Tony, which is fun, and heat on, Taz is trying to go along with it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Taz was all over the place tonight in a good and bad ways. It was kind of interesting, but no,
he was saying dude and bro a lot, like a ton.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know where it came from, but yeah.
But no, it was good for what it was, and FTR is good in their role for sure.
Yeah, Garcia's a good in-ring talent, and there's time with him. I mean, he's still young, but they've tried a lot, and I don't think a lot of it has landed. He's a guy who can give you a really good match between the ropes, but character-wise, all he's got is the dance, and like the dance gets a pop, but it can only carry you so far. I mean, there's a very clear ceiling with that gimmick and with the way that he's presented overall. Frank, go ahead, talk to me about the match and what you think of the FTR run so far, and Garcia too.
Yeah, Sean stole a lot of my thunder with the hot tag. That's one of the notes that I had. I would have thought that.
Now we'll kick him out.
No.
No.
Nah. My buddy Sean's he's good. No, I would have thought that that Garcia would have worked babyface in peril and hot tag to Nigel, and then do what you got to do with him, and you could still beat Garcia after that. There's no reason you can't do that. So that was a little bit strange to me. The big issue for me is, does anybody care about the relationship between Tony and Nigel, given that they're on Collision? No. I mean, half the audience. I mean, is anybody really connected to that? I don't know. I mean, I was telling you, Brandon, and I'll tell you the same thing, Sean. I've been checking out Collision lately, but I've been kind of like sampling it, and I could tell you, I watch Collision probably in about 25 minutes. Because most of the matches are just not worth it. But I'll watch some of the storyline stuff. And I've seen some of the stuff with Tony and Nigel. And it's been fine, for me or whatever. But I'm not sure that a lot of people are really connected to it. I'm not sure this is a story that people are largely looking to see, Nigel come out on top. I'm not sure about that. I could be, I'd be curious what people in the chat say about it. But yeah, it was way too long, and time could have been cut off. And but my issue more is just the way the match was structured. The psychology of the match was off, and it didn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. But
yeah.
The right team winner. I mean, Todd Martin made the case for Garcia and Nigel winning, and FTR getting their heat back after the match, and I wouldn't have had a problem with that. I thought that would have been interesting, but you can't really argue with what they did here, especially if you're building up FTR. I mean, who knows, they could be the ones lined up to face the Hurt Business at some point.
To that point, Derek Mitchell in the chat saying it's interesting, the best two tag teams, FTR and the Young Bucks, have zero interest in the tag team titles, while the champions are in an angle with MJF, and it is worth noting. I mean, this has been an issue with the tag team titles for a while, and we'll talk about it when we get to that match in just a little bit. But FTR definitely could be in line for a title shot before too long, especially if they want to firmly establish the Hurt Syndicate as baby faces, which they've kind of done, but not really.
Yeah, we'll get
and that's a thing. That's a thing up and down the card with AEW, and has been for a long time. All right, before we get too far removed from it, I do want to note both Derek Mitchell and Goodfella mentioning in the chat it's colon cancer for JR. Yeah. So he was diagnosed with colon cancer recently, and obviously best wishes to good old JR. All right, let's go to next match, which was a stretcher match, AEW's first ever stretcher match, in fact. Ricochet came out first. Taz said that he takes smart shortcuts, and that's one of the biggest reasons why people don't like him, along with being bald. And Taz took exception to that. He said a lot of wrestlers are bald. I don't get what the big deal is. So Mark Briscoe comes out next, and he's got some hair Excalibur says that this is basically to spite Ricochet. And they built a couple of hair spots into this match, too. The most notable one, of course, being Mark Briscoe retrieving some cleaning solution from underneath the ring, spraying Ricochet's bald head with it, and then wiping it down with a towel. And Excalibur was kind of over the top, screaming about how fans should turn away their eyes because it was going to be blinding under the lights. In any case, Ricochet wins this one in about 16 minutes. Mark Briscoe bleeds a ton here, just gets busted wide open. At some point, getting thrown over to the outside, and then the cut gets opened up more when he gets slammed repeatedly on the stretcher. And then it's exacerbated even more when Ricochet uses the golden scissors a couple of times. So lots of blood for Mark Briscoe here. Ricochet the winner in 16. Thought this was fine. Maybe, again, a little bit too long, just given, what the angle is, where the angle's at, and how much they had to cram into this show. Right guy won, though. I appreciate Mark Briscoe. I enjoy some of what he does in the ring, but he's not a person who AEW should be putting, serious time and contention into. Ricochet has been knocking it out of the park with this heel character. He needed a win, given, how things have gone for him as of late. Briscoe's a good guy to get that win over. Frank, what'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Ricochet is definitely a priority over Mark Briscoe. Listen, we could take issue all night with the length of these matches, and I certainly would agree with that. But my issue more with this is, why was this a stretcher match? And I've watched the TV. It's not like I haven't watched. I just don't remember what led me to think, this is a stretcher match. Like, usually when you get to these matches, there are reasons, and, they make sense. And, like even with Saturday night's main event with the steel cage with Priest and McIntyre, there was justification for it. Even if you didn't agree with it, there was still justification behind it. So I don't really know what the justification was for it. So it kind of made me a little emotionally detached from it. But with that said, they worked really hard. I think the scissors spots is getting to be a little tongue-in-cheek for me because it happens all the time, and it's just like you're just looking for it now. You're not even looking.
It's like Callis' screwdriver.
It's like Callis' screwdriver, and I'm sure we can mention there's a couple of other things that aren't coming to mind. So, yeah, that's getting to be a little annoying for me. By the way, I hope, Brandon, you got my text. I texted Brandon. I said housekeeping when Briscoe pulled out the pail of cleaners, because I gotta be a wise ass. One thing I did appreciate was the Sabu tribute with the chair. I thought that was really nice.
Yep.
Kind of a little bit of an emotional spot there, but. Overall, they worked hard. I mean, I wouldn't be giving this, 4.5 stars or anything like that. If I'm doing stars, maybe in the 3-ish range would be fair, because they did work hard at it. But again, I think the lack of emotional investment and the lack of a need for a stretcher match really kind of brought it down.
Yeah, a couple of dangerous looking chair spots in this one too, where they're just tossing chairs at heads. That's kind of been the name of the game with AEW lately. They've replaced the unprotected chair shot to the head with just wildly throwing chairs at people's heads. They do it a lot. And I get that it gives guys time to get hands up like that to kind of swat it away. But sometimes they don't, and some of them look pretty nasty. There are a couple of those here. Also a scary spot where Briscoe was trying to jump off of a open chair in the ring onto Ricochet on the outside, and he overstepped on the seat of the chair, and so the chair tipped, which caused him to kind of tumble into the ropes. And it happened to be at the same time that Ricochet was throwing a chair at his head. So even though Ricochet may have executed the spot safely, Briscoe was too far forward because the chair was tipping over, and so it really clocked him. So yeah, a couple of scary spots there. Sean, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, basically with you guys, I guess the reason for the stretcher match I was assuming was they talked about it. I think they asked if it was because of Sabu, one of the matches he had with, I think RVD was it. And I think they just thought, oh, it's Sabu passed away. Let's do it because in memory of him, probably something to do with that. I'm assuming. It's still stupid because it didn't need it, but whatever. I'm assuming that's why he thought it was a good idea. But yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I mean, they worked hard. Ricochet, like you said, needed the win. He's been great as a heel. The scissors need to effing go away. I'm tired of the freaking scissors. Like, stop with the crap. Like, I'm so over these stupid weapons they use. I wish they'd get past that. But other than that, it was fine for what it was. I'm with you. If I'd have said, medium 3-star match, good match, and blood is just over. I mean, not as bad as it's been in AEW, but it still didn't need it here. I mean, it made sense, but it was like, yeah, I didn't need him to be bleeding like a stuck pig, as JR would call it. So it was fine.
Yeah.
All right, match number 4, AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin with MVP and MJF, taking on Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, who are the reigning Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Those titles were not on the line in this match. MVP said it was because they were cowards and they knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, nice try,
and
MVP.
I mean, good line for commentary, but I would also say thank God that they weren't on the line because I do not want Ring of Honor titles defended on AEW television. Okay, anyway, Hurt Syndicate wins, no surprise there, in just about 12 minutes, 30 seconds to retain the tag team titles. The bulk of this one is really based around introducing MJF as part of the Hurt Syndicate. And by that, I mean he was getting involved pretty significantly early on. And that was both to the Hurt Syndicate's advantage and detriment. He was causing chaos, and sometimes it would backfire to make you think that, oh, maybe these guys aren't going to put up with him very long. And MVP was kind of having to cover for him on commentary, saying that, he was trying his best, he was trying real hard, and that they were going to have some conversations about it later on. In the end, though, it looks like Lashley, all is forgiven. Lashley holds MJF back from using the Dynamite Diamond ring on Dustin Rhodes on the outside, and instead spears him through the ringside barrier, which I thought was a neat little story in the sense that the Hurt Syndicate have not been clearly defined as babyfaces or heels. They're leaning more toward the babyface side. The crowd very clearly treats them like babyfaces. MJF is a heel. He is treated like a heel for the most part by the crowd, and he continues to act like a heel. So when MJF was trying to interfere in the match on behalf of the Hurt Syndicate by using a foreign object, Lashley stopped it from happening and then beat the living hell out of Dustin Rhodes anyway because he's Bobby Lashley and that's what he does. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a good story development, a good way to further this angle that they're telling with MJF. I continue to be impressed with Lashley and Benjamin. I wouldn't have given Dustin and Sammy 12 minutes here. I just think that the level of competition that the Hurt Syndicate have been facing, you put them in squash matches. I just would have had them. I would have had them kill them. Like, I just don't think that there is anything. There's nothing in Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes worth protecting at this point of the game in AEW. And you're investing so much in the Hurt Syndicate in this angle. I would have just had them slaughter these guys. But I get the desire to tell a story with MJF, and that's what we got. Sean, I'll throw to you first. What'd you think here?
Yeah, I'm not liking what they're doing at all right now. They need to define the Hurt Syndicate who they are, number one. Define who the freak they are. Are they good guys or are they bad guys? And MJF has just been acting like such a dork. And I don't know. This isn't doing anything for me. I just, the way he's celebrating. Oh, he acted like such an idiot when he was like, oh, I'm in the group. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. And then I see what you're saying about tonight, but then when Lashley stopped him, but then all of a sudden they're goody afterwards. I'm like, it's just all over the place. I don't get really any of what they're trying to do here. And MVP going back and forth, heel face. It's just a mess to me. I don't know where they're going. I don't know where they're trying to go. And MJF, when he stood up, when he got up on the table, the fans are still into him though. They're still cheering him a little bit. They're not just totally like giving him the heat that he wants. And I think it's a mess. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I from what I've seen, I'm not a fan of this. I want them to get where they're trying to go and kind of get there soon. I think if they play this out, the more it's just going to be even more of a mess, and we're not going to know who these people are. And Hurt Syndicate, like you said, should be tearing through Dustin and Sammy at this point. I mean, I just the promos with Dustin was even worse. Even though Dustin's a good promo, but he wasn't good the other night. And so I don't know. I'm willing to let it play out, but so far I have not been impressed. And this tonight didn't help me. It didn't feel like it's going in a better direction. So.
Yeah, Frank, I'm going to throw you in a second here. I just want to make note. Sadler asking, would it look bad if they squashed the Ring of Honor champions, though?
No.
I don't care. I think that if you're going to put your Ring of Honor tag titles on AEW TV in a position against a tag team that is clearly superior to them in every conceivable way, is booked that way, wrestles that way, is presented that way, then you can't be worried about protecting the prestige of the brand that people barely know how to find. Yeah. I mean, Ring of Honor is nothing. It's not. It's irrelevant. It's titles for the sake of having titles. I just don't think it matters. I don't think it matters enough to outweigh the benefit you get from having the Hurt Syndicate just beat guys into a pulp. I don't think that there is any benefit to protecting Ring of Honor tag titles in any way. Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, my poor daughter asks me all the time, she's a big MJF fan, where is this going? Where is this going with the Hurt Syndicate? And every week I have to tell her, I don't know. It's one of those things that, to Sean's point, it's kind of all over the place. You have the Hurt Syndicate, which is, essentially being cheered, and MJF, who's a heel, but, does get cheered as well. I mean, he's just always been one of those heels. So it's like, you kind of don't know where they are. I thought the story was kind of lame a little bit where, MJF wanted to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring and Bobby said no. And then he was like, you know what? I got this, and then everything was cool after that. So it's one of those deals that I think we have to just see what happens at the finish line, and then either it's all going to make sense or it's all going to not make sense. I mean, I just don't know what MJF would be doing right now if he wasn't involved with the Hurt Syndicate. And I personally would not have gotten him involved with the Hurt Syndicate. I would have left them alone.
Agreed.
And just let them run through people and then, let them run into their ultimate challenge. But this is what they're doing. And, I'm not necessarily understanding where it's all going, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and see what the end game is, and then I'll decide if it was all worth it. I don't think it's costing you anything with MJF, because I don't think MJF is at a high level. I mean, he's been at a lower level ever since he got involved with Adam Cole. So, and it's been a long road to recovery ever since. So it's not really costing you anything. And the Hurt Syndicate, it's not. I mean, people are going to chant, "We hurt people," no matter what. So, they're fine. I mean, everything is fine with that. So, just got to kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, as I say in my day job.
Yeah, I think I'm a little higher on this than you guys, only because I'm glad that they're telling a connected story in the tag division, because for so long there have been just paper thin storytelling in that division and elsewhere on the mid card. So I'm glad that we're getting something that has interest from the crowd. I mean, I think they're invested, but I don't know that they're invested in the right way, because as you both pointed out, there isn't a clearly defined designation for the Hurt Syndicate, and MJF still gets, the mixed reactions. So there's issues there without question. But I do think the crowd is invested in the story overall, and to me, that's a small win in the sense that for a while the AEW tag team division was just completely floundering. I mean, those titles had no meaning whatsoever, and that's a shame because this was a company who was putting tag team title matches in main events, and they deserve to be there. There was a huge revitalization of tag team wrestling. So I hope that there are better challenges on the way for the Hurt Syndicate, and that helps them tell more compelling stories. I mean, you do have FTR in the wings. You've got, if they want to do something with Paragon, with Cole and O'Reilly, or Strong, whatever combination you want to do, they can tell that story. There's other tag teams, obviously, the Young Bucks when they're available, that can get involved in the tag team division again and make it seem like a bigger deal, because it's been a long time.
I wonder if this is all kind of a smokescreen, and the Hurt Syndicate will ultimately be baby faces with MJF finding a partner of his own. I don't know who that
I think that's definitely possible.
I don't know who that would be. Would that be a returning Wardlow? I don't know. I mean, but I do wonder if that's the end. I do wonder if that's the end game. Excuse me.
Yeah,
something like it could be like Jay White. I mean, Jay White's just sitting around doing nothing.
It'd have to be something compelling for it to really work, and I don't know that Tony has that in him. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the Hurt Syndicate is if you're going to make them, if they are faces, which I'm assuming they are, but I don't know because of MVP and some of the stuff he's been saying, if, they just go to this thing and MJF turns on them eventually with somebody else, it just makes them look dumb because they should have known this was coming the whole time. Like, the story is, we know who MJF is as a character. We know who he is. He's a scumbag. We know he's going to eventually turn on you. So if you do that, there's got to be something else they're doing, which I hope that's where it's going. It's got to lead to something else other than that. Because if it's that, this is a waste of time. Because it just makes them look like total idiots, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, chat pointing out too that, and I did know Jay White is hurt, but I didn't think it was a long-term thing.
Right, I didn't either.
But regardless, I mean, just a name to throw out there. I don't think that he was doing much of anything significant prior to leaving or prior to getting hurt. I like the Wardlow suggestion better. If they're going to bring him back in, there's options to team with MJF for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's head on to match number 5, the Continental Championship. Kazuchika Okada defending against Speedball Mike Bailey. Speedball getting kind of a muted reaction when he came out. I expected it to be a little bit tighter than it was. The announcers made sure to bring up the fact that he hasn't been pinned since arriving in AEW. That, of course, was about to change. Okada still got a big star reaction. Shivani made sure to mention that he is on his 431st day as Continental Champion, and Excalibur said that he's the longest reigning men's champion of any kind in AEW, which is crazy to think because that title has not been presented as a big deal at all since Okada has won it, but he's had it for a long time. Okada wins this one in just over 16 minutes. He does so with a drop kick out of thin air as Speedball comes off the top for like his 3rd or 4th shooting star for the rest of the match. And then he pulls him up and gives him the Rainmaker for the cover and the win. Thought this was fine. I continue to be underwhelmed by these sort of semi-meaningless Continental title defenses on pay-per-view. And I think this one was maybe a little bit more eventful than some of the others that Okada has had, but every month it just seems like they trot Okada out there to have a 15-minute match with somebody he's going to beat, and the crowd respectfully cheers for it but doesn't really get all that invested.
Yeah.
I was pretty high on Speedball when he first arrived. I think it's kind of wearing thin on me already, and I say that because, like, in this match in particular, it just seemed like, and I don't know if it was just the way that they worked, if the chemistry was off, but Bailey basically has a roundhouse kick and a shooting star press, and it's a very, very limited move set for a guy that moves as swiftly and quickly as he does. And I just, I don't know. I need to see more out of him, I think, in a one-on-one situation, because it's just not connecting for me. And I think the crowd, based on the reaction tonight, is already just kind of seeing him as another guy. And I don't think that that's great for his long-term viability. Okada, again, to me, like, this is not, if you only know Kazuchika Okada from AEW and you have not seen the stuff that he did in New Japan, I get that they tell you all the time how damn good he is and how legendary he is, but man, his work in this company and his character in this company does not live up to that billing. He just does not feel like a big deal. Frank, where are you at with Okada? What'd you think of this?
I agree with you. It almost reminds me of Bret Hart in WCW when he went there. You know, it was hottest baby face in the world at the time, and they just, you know, did not use him in the way that they could have. And that's kind of what Okada's been doing since he's been here. You know, as far as the match, I thought it was fine. I mean, it really didn't overstay its welcome. I thought they worked fairly well together. I wouldn't, you know, again, this is another 3-ish star match if we're talking star ratings, you know. And I was not as high on Speedball as a lot of people. I mean, I saw him in the Best of the Super Juniors a couple of years ago. More of his prominent work is over in TNA, and I don't watch that. I mean, he's a nice worker, don't get me wrong, and, you know, he jumps around, and, you know, he's got the shooting star press, like you said, and the kicks and all that, but personality wise, I just didn't think he really had a ton to offer. You know, he's probably better, you know, working in the junior division over in New Japan. You know, that's kind of what his ceiling is. They have a lot of guys. I mean, he's kind of in there with Danny Garcia. You know, he'll give you nice matches, but there's really just not much to it. You know, so
he's merging into traffic very quickly.
And the only thing I could suggest to your point about Okada winning these obvious matches is the potential of him and Omega working at All In, you know, which has kind of been the rumor for a while, and possibly merging the Continental and International Championships.
Don't tease me with a good time.
Which I'm not sure I see that, because if they're going to run the Continental Classic every year and that's going to be for the title, right, then I can't see them merging the two. So
I think that they desperately need to get rid of one of those mid-card titles for sure. I want to bring attention, say hello to Sean Radican, who's joining us in the chat here. He mentioned, can't believe they paid Okada all that money to be a mid-card guy. And yeah, that's what he is. And he feels like a mid-card guy. It's not just like, oh, here's this main eventer who we are booking in the mid-card right now because we don't have room in the main event. That's been Will Ospreay for many months in the past. That's not what they're doing with Okada. Okada is firmly a mid-card guy and at times a comedy act, which is just unfathomable.
It's insulting.
That's
it's
where
actually
we landed.
Insulting.
Yeah.
All right, because I caught the tail end of his New Japan run, and it is effing insulting. Okay, bitch.
Yeah. I mean, Sadler mentioning, do you guys think the opponent booking is also hurting him? Absolutely.
Totally.
Because they're just throwing these mid-card guys at him. And it's just you're seeing virtually the same match every month, because even though you have a different variety, different style of opponents, they're all just in there to feed to the Rainmaker, for Okada to do his thing, to do it in about 15 minutes, to listen to Excalibur and Shivani and Taz talk about how fluid and how incredible a tournament wrestler Okada is. Just heap praise on the guy when the product that you're seeing in the ring is not matching what they're trying to tell you. And it's not because Okada isn't capable of it. It's because he's not being put in a position to thrive. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. Sean, anything you want to throw out here about this match, about Okada moving forward, or thoughts on Speedball?
Yeah, with Speedball, I mean, I've talked to Jason Powell quite a few times, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta, let it ride out with Speedball. He's really fun." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not digging it. I'm not feeling it. I mean, I mean, what you said, Frank, about well, you guys both brought it up. I mean, after a while, the kicks just get old. After a while, like it's not as cool when you see it like every match. It's like, okay, he's got a few fast kicks and he's got the spin kick and the thrust kick and the disc kick, and I'm like, okay, like that's cool, but I've seen it all now. Like I don't need to see it the whole match in the shooting star press. He did do that a lot tonight. I was like, daggum, how many of these are you gonna do, man? And he stood up on the top rope forever at the end to sell for the I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, come on, man. Like, have some urgency to try to win the title, bro. Like, you're like, I want to win this title. And then but then they did sell you so much on the Okada. Oh, he's so smooth in the ring and he doesn't breathe hard and he's just so, like, I was like, wow, it was kicking me in the head. Like, oh, you got to love Okada. He's just awesome. It's like, no, he's not right now at all. There's nothing awesome about him. And I'm going to keep saying it until somebody listens. That Rainmaker is a sucky finisher. It sucks. I'm sorry. Like, I know it's a 45-minute match. It's like this great match and you build to it. I never saw it, so I can't say. Everything I've seen in AEW, it looks dumb. And it's a dumb way to finish somebody off, in my opinion. It looks awful. I mean, it did not look good tonight. It was not like, oh man, he just clotheslined them out of the building. It just looked like a regular clothesline, and he's pinning them.
Sean's not happy with you right now.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's not. I mean, Sean Radican, like, what have you seen in AEW that makes me think that's a good finisher? It has not looked good in almost every match other than the Ospreay match. Ospreay sold it great in the C2, but other than that, it has not looked good. I'm sorry. It hasn't. It's not a good finisher.
For those of you that are listening on demand after, not viewing the YouTube version,
don't come for me. I love you, Sean.
I have Sean Radican's comment up on the screen here, responding to Sean, who is speaking, saying that that his talk of the Rainmaker is slander.
In AEW, am I wrong, Frank? Am I wrong in AEW? Am I wrong? Has it looked good in AEW at all, other than the Ospreay match? I don't think it's looked good to me. It just looks like
Sean has offered to give you an in-person clothesline to make you believe in the Rainmaker.
No, I'm fragile, so it'll look good on me. I mean, it'll put me in the hospital.
This is what we've devolved into at 1:55.
I wouldn't get Sean too upset these days. I'm a Knicks fan. He's a Celtics fan. Do the math,
guys. The headline coming out of this show. Very clearly, pwtorch staff member Sean Radican promises to clothesline pwtorch contributor and VIP member Sean Plichta.
Is your all-in match?
That's our headline.
Just my thought. I'm sorry. Just
book it, Wade. Somebody get Wade. Somebody get Wade up. And we'll boy.
Sorry.
All right. We'll compose ourselves now. Head to match number 6. It's Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's World Championship. Mina gets a decent reaction coming to the ring. Toni Storm gets a star reaction, as she usually does. Luther is doing a lot of banging on the mat to get the crowd into this one in the early going. Luther was involved in this one quite a bit, actually. There were some spots with Mina on the outside where he tried to protect Tony, and then Mina kind of kicked him in the face, and then jumped on him and knocked him down. And they had some cool little stuff. Anyway, early in this one, Tony mimics Mina's dance. I thought that was a fun little spot. And the story of this match is that Mina Shirakawa is working heavily on the leg of Toni Storm, which she injured on Dynamite. And so much of this is Mina giving Tony some nice looking dragon screws to try to weaken the leg, and applying a regular figure four, bridging the figure four. She applies an inverted figure four at one point, and Tony does a great job selling this throughout the course of the match. And it actually leads us to the finish, where basically Shirakawa is looking for a figure four again, and Tony counters it into a small package. She gets a 2 count. Mina then turns it over, gets one of her own, and when the two of them roll back to their feet, Tony catches Mina with a hard looking headbutt and catches her with the Storm Zero for the win. I was glad that they didn't go with the small package finish. A lot of, first of all, having just done it earlier in the night with Mercedes Moné, but also because they've done it a lot with the Toni Storm matches. So I was glad that they went with just a straight Storm Zero finish. I thought this was good. I like Mina as a challenger. I like Mina as a wrestler. I forgot to mention her earlier, but I would certainly consider her to be part of that tier 2 of women that AEW has, especially with her being, a full-time talent now. I think she's got a genuine connection with the audience. She's got a good look. I don't necessarily love the gimmick, because it just feels kind of thin, but I think there's a lot of potential there for her going forward. Storm is the obvious winner here, made sense, and obviously sets up the match for All In. Frank, what'd you think?
Yeah, not a ton to say. You knew Tony was going to win. There was no doubt about that. And they had to put I'm supposing that they put the knee injury story in there just to create some kind of doubt, to make you think that Mina had a chance to win the match. So, if you're going to do that, I guess I appreciate that. One thing I do want to say, and I think it's important to talk about, I like how Tony has assimilated the character into the wrestling world outside of Mariah May. You know what I mean? Like, I had concerns that once she was done with Mariah, that the whole, timeless character would not work with anybody else. But I think she's really found a way to make it work, and I'm intrigued by her. I really am. I'm excited to to see her. I'm intrigued by what she has to say, especially when she goes on commentary. She cracks me up. But she's good in the ring too, and like she knows how to draw the line. She knows how to be comedic, but she also knows how to be serious at the same time. And, you generally don't want too much comedy in your world champion, but I think she knows how to get serious when it's necessary. So, I like that she's able to do that. I mean, Mina, has been sort of in her universe before, so, but she's worked other matches prior to this, and I thought she's done a really nice job. So, right finish, and I thought they told the story that they needed to tell.
I continue to be really impressed by Toni Storm walking that line, Frank. I think that she's done a really remarkable job over the last several months settling into this character in a way that allows you to have fun and brings a great deal of levity to certain moments, but knows when she needs to turn it on bright for the big moments, like I think she will against Mercedes. I look at Toni Storm and Swerve Strickland as the two big misses for WWE, where they just very clearly got it horribly, horribly wrong. And for Toni, it took a little while. I mean, she had to find herself and find a character that really worked, that she could sink her teeth into. And for a while, I thought that Toni was not going to be unlike, Aleister Black and Rusev and Andrade, guys who came in and just you kind of just found out that they are what they are. And I thought that was going to be Toni Storm, and it's not. It clearly is not. She is a much bigger star than that. Sean, what'd you think of this one?
I thought the match was okay. I didn't love it. I mean, they told the story they were trying to tell. Mina just like acting like weird, and her. I mean, I like her charisma, but I just in this match it didn't work for me. I guess I just thought, and to me, when Luther's interacting in the match as a heel, it worked. As a face, it doesn't work. I just don't like Luther just being involved in the match at all at that point. Like I
Yeah.
just I would not do that anymore. I would stop with him. That's over the top now, I guess, to me a little bit. But I mean, it's fun, but it's like, Toni, I love Toni. I do think she's doing a better job since she won the title of having, like you said, that back and forth. I still don't like these gimmicks having a title, but she is making it work. The match tonight was what it was. It didn't do a lot for me. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was just okay. But they did tell a story in the match, which again, you're trying to at least build some kind of intrigue, even though you know there's no intrigue. And that's what bothers me about a lot of these matches. There's no intrigue, and they're just trying to do everything they can to make you think there's something that's going to happen that you know's not. And so it was fine. But Mina, I think, has potential, but tonight didn't make me feel better about it. And the angle on Wednesday made no sense. She just loves Toni. All of a sudden, she's figure fouring her against on the side. It just made no sense to me. It was really weird, really odd. So.
Yeah, this was the one that had the weird post match situation. Toni and Mina end up kissing. Which, I don't know. I mean, I get that's kind of like Mina's thing, but I don't know. Could have done without
Stop.
it.
It's over the top. Stop.
Whatever.
No comment.
I mean, like, I get why they do it. I don't know. It's no big deal. It didn't take away from anything for me, but I mean, I could have left it. All right, let's flip these last two matches for obvious reasons, so that we don't end on a meaningless trios match. We'll talk about Anarchy in the arena last, plus anything else you guys want to throw out there. So let's jump to match 8. Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, Josh Alexander, and Kyle Fletcher, with, of course, Don Callis and Lance Archer taking on Paragon. And that is Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. This one goes 12 minutes, about 47 seconds. Don Callis family wins. Fletcher hits a brainbuster on Roddy or on Kyle O'Reilly. Sorry, to get the pinfall. I've got very little to say about this one. I thought that it was a match that would have been much better served on Dynamite. Just no place here. At this point, we're running a 4.5-hour show. You know how long your main event is going to run. You know how long Anarchy in the arena just ran. This angle has no legs. The crowd's not into it. They're already tired. We would see the fatigue in the main event where, they've got this great match and the crowd is trying so hard to get up for this match. And in between the big spots, they are just dead because they're exhausted at this point. Yeah. So just no excuse for having this match on the card. It had no business being there. Sean, I'll throw to you first.
Literally nothing to say. I'll say it. I said it a few shows ago. I love friendship. I hate this friendship. Why are these 3 guys freaking together? Get them off my screen. I don't need these guys together. It's so overdone. Just go away already. Do something with Adam Cole. If he's going to have the TNT title, have him do something. And this is not freaking it. Awful stuff. Callis family won. They needed to. Kyle Fletcher just feels like he's in traffic right now. I don't know what they're doing with him at this point. They're trying to build the Callis family up, but man, do something more than this. Having random matches with them just beating people, it just feels so boring and so played out. Like, it just didn't need to be here. That's all I need to say. Didn't need to be there. Waste of time.
Wade and I talked about this on the AEW Dynamite post show a couple of weeks back. It, it's an odd situation for Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita to be in together in the Don Callis family like this, because if you compare it to something like, the group that Seth Rollins has put together, just take that for an example, you have some clearly defined roles where Rollins is your established main eventer, Braun is kind of like, the next guy up. And now, of course, they're now adding Bronson Reed to the fold, and that muddies the waters a little bit. But I think he's going to be more your heavy. He's kind of going to be the enforcer type. In the Don Callis family, you have Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita, who are both at the same level on the card. They're both on the come up. They're both looking to advance their careers as singles wrestlers, but they're going to be competing in the same circles. Yeah. And I think that is counterintuitive, because it doesn't make a ton of sense for, let's say Callis is out advocating strongly for Takeshita to get an international title match. Well, shouldn't he be advocating for Fletcher to get an international title match? They're at the same level, and he can't really do that. So to me, they just work opposite of each other, and it doesn't work. I like the Don Callis family as a concept, as an idea. I think it can be beneficial. I think Callis is a heat magnet. I think sometimes he's so much of a heat magnet that he takes away from some of the guys in his stable, because most of them are great wrestlers and fans want to cheer them, but they also hate Callis. Callis is like one of the only guys in the entire company that gets legitimate heat. So it's the whole thing is kind of messy. Frank, where do you land here?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the similarity of Fletcher and Takeshita, but that's an excellent point. I mean, you go back even to the days of like the Bobby Heenan family, and I always felt like there was a balance. If he had Rick Rude, he didn't have somebody similar to Rick Rude at the same time, unless I'm just misremembering. At one point he had Paul Orndorff and Stud and Bundy, and they were just all different guys with different in different circles, so there is a bit of repetitiveness. Now maybe they're working towards something where Takeshita's gonna break out and be a top baby face. I don't know, but that is certainly something to keep in mind. But as far as the match, the match wasn't bad. It was well worked. It just unfortunately was poorly placed. It's at a point, I barely took any notes on it, because I just watched the Anarchy in the Arena match. So, that's about all I have to. That's about all I have to say. I'm sure we'll talk about the post match angle in a second, which just was completely unnecessary. But we did get the return of Hiroshi Tanahashi, so I'm always gonna be happy to see him.
Yeah, kind of a lead in there. I mean, Derek Mitchell saying most of the AEW factions are wrestlers that don't seem to match, and I think that's true. I mean, it's a beacon of what you see in New Japan. I mean, Tony is obviously a New Japan fan. There's a relationship there. New Japan is largely comprised of factions, even if guys aren't necessarily wrestling together all the time. I think that's just the way that Tony likes to run his promotion. It's not my favorite way to go about things. I think that they usually do a pretty good job navigating it overall, but sometimes you get messy situations like this. And I thought the post-match of this was really messy. Like Frank alluded to, after the match, Paragon tries to get some measure of revenge. Lance Archer hits the ring, fights them off. RPG Vice runs in for some reason. They were on the pre-show earlier, and they start to beat down Paragon. That brings out Brody King, which I don't really know why. He comes out. They play. So they show the Hounds of Hell Tron, and for a second I'm thinking like, oh, is it Buddy Matthews coming back? But no, it's Brody King and Tomohiro Ishii. They They split down the middle, and then Tanahashi comes out. And even the announcers kind of have to like make sense of this whole thing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, Forbidden Doors coming up later this summer," and it's like, cool, all right. So
yeah,
this is just
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, yep.
Yeah, yeah, hard pass for me. I just this was
doesn't need to be there.
The match didn't belong on the show. It just didn't belong there, especially with them running as long as they did. But yeah, I mean, Derek Mitchell in the chat mentioning it smells like build for Forbidden Door. That's exactly what it is, and the announcers even told you as much because they didn't know what else to do. They knew it didn't make sense, so they were just like, Forbidden Door's coming. So yeah, that's what you get. All right,
here we go.
Let's move on to our last match to talk about, which we got a little out of order here. But for those who joined late, we did talk about the main event at the start of the show, and might a little bit more with some closing thoughts. But this is our last match to cover, and that is Anarchy in the Arena. A lot going on here. Swerve Strickland, Kenny Omega, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, which is comprised of Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Powerhouse Hobbs. Facing the Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Marina Shafir, and the Young Bucks. This one goes a very long time. It runs 35 minutes, just over 35 minutes. Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, your winners of this one after a lot of back and forth, a lot of camera cuts, split screens, a lot of music playing, a lot of violence, everything that you would expect from an Anarchy in the arena match. This was that. If you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all. To me, this is a love it or hate it kind of thing. I am not bothered by the violence in this match. I'm bothered by the lack of seriousness for a match that is this violent and is a blood feud between two groups of wrestlers. They just get so goofy, and I just don't love the presentation. And I know that I'm in the minority on that. The crowd ate this up, and I would guess that by and large, diehard AEW fans love this thing, and that's fine. It is not for me. It never has been. I think that, in particular, the music gimmick is so dumb. Why is it that the only time that the truck doesn't know how to push the stop button on the theme music is in an Anarchy in the Arena match? Why do we have wrestlers calling for different songs being played? Why is the crowd more invested in singing the songs being played than they are watching the violent car crash that's happening in the ring? And why is it that throwing a wrestler into one single speaker set up on the side of the stage is the only thing that can stop the music from playing? I'm being a stickler here. Like, I get that this is kind of a dream for a lot of AEW fans. It's just not my thing. Frank, where are you at?
I am with you. It is not my thing either. It's not. It's become something that's become a calendar event. And, for years and years and years, whether it was TLC, whether it was Hell in a Cell, and even War Games is starting to become that way with WWE. Mm-hmm. It's a calendar event. So you find yourself a month or two out, you're seeing 4 or 5 people having an issue with another 4 or 5 people, and you're like, oh, this is going to be Anarchy in the Arena, and you see it a mile away. And there's very little emotional investment in the match because you're just looking for the spots. You're looking for the songs now because I guess it's a New Jack tribute, okay? And they just overdid it tonight. They overdid it with I think they were trolling us with the I'm So Excited because there was that one episode of Dynamite that opened with I'm So Excited, and that was just, awful.
Do you think maybe Tony paid a flat fee for X number of uses, and he didn't get to use them all, so this one was just free?
Probably.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that could be. That could be. I mean, this is what I'll say about the match. The match, having been in the arena for 2 of these, this is definitely a better arena match than it is a TV match.
Yeah.
Because as a TV match, it gives me a freaking headache. Cut into this, cut into this, cut into that, cut into that. I can't keep up. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I took notes, but like, I don't know.
Try covering it in written form.
I God bless you, man. I really, God bless you.
I've done 4 or 5 of them.
I don't know how you do. I don't know how you do it. It's just, they did the what was the Stampede matches. I mean, listen,
you throw grammar and sentence structure out the window.
Oh yeah, I hear you, and I know you're a stickler for that. And look, this was a thing that worked in the pandemic. I understood why they did it in the pandemic when they did the stadium Stampede. That was fine, okay, but it's time to put this match to bed. It's ridiculous. It doesn't, like, people just don't take it seriously. They're just there to see the spots. They're just there to hear the music. They're just there to sing. Like last year, we're singing the Final Countdown, and I admit I got caught up in it. I mean, 13-year-old me loves the Final Countdown because I remember when I got that.
It looks like a blast live.
It's a blast. Yeah. It is a blast live. It is, but we're not at a freaking rock concert. We're at a pro wrestling event. I'm just trying to go through. I mean, there were some cool spots. There was a big table spot with Hobbs and Moxley. There was the stuff with the crowd. I mean, like, Omega's got the microphone and he's singing with the crowd, and he's like, what is this? And that's why you can't take this shit seriously. You just can't. Yep. Why am I getting invested in this?
And you're world champions in this match.
Like, what what do I care? The stuff with the stuff with the stapler was funny, but then Swerve gets his mouth stapled. They do a big swerve, like, where's Samoa Joe? And then Samoa Joe just shows up, like, that's supposed to be a swerve? Like, whoa, big swerve. Boy, you fooled me. Well, I thought it was bullshit.
And they almost missed it because they were so focused on the music playing that they almost just glossed over the fact that Samoa Joe showed up.
And then you got the Bucks coming at. I mean, listen, I appreciate the Bucks being creative with the Founding Fathers thing. I mean, that's fine, whatever. I mean, that was what it was, and then you had some cool spots, like Willow and Hobbs had the spine busters. I thought that was cool. There was one point where the Bucks were standing there, like, waiting for a swerve stomp, and they're like, no. And then he hits the stomp, and he just, like, get out of the way. What are you standing there for? It just takes me out of the match. So, I don't know. And then, Gabe Kidd comes out, and it's just like, why is he just not in the match? What is the, like, what? Yeah. What is that? And then,
because he's a hired gun. That's what Excalibur said.
Hired gun. Well, then put him in the match. I mean, Forbidden Door is coming up, right? I mean, come on. So
and Mark Briscoe. Can't forget Briscoe.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say on that, I do appreciate baby faces coming out, to help other baby faces that aren't necessarily feuding, because that was the whole thing with WWE for years. Only people feuding with each other can interact, so I do appreciate that part of it. And the finish was cool, with the Death Riders getting locked in, and then, Swerve pinning, I guess it was Nicholas with the spike shoes or whatever. So, I mean, look, there were cool spots, but that's what it is. It's just a half hour of spots. It's a half hour of a rock concert. And that's not what I'm here to. It's a half hour of camera cuts. I got rid of this shit with Kevin Dunn. I don't need it here.
Yeah, some of the cuts were egregious, and they were missing stuff. And when there's that many people involved in a match, it's impossible to keep up with it all on screen and make sure that guys are hitting their cues at the times that you want them to, because there's just too many bodies. There's just too many guys out there. They're in too many different locations at once. There's too much going on. I mean, there were moments where they were cheering, like you could hear the crowd cheering something heavily, but it wasn't being shown on TV. We were seeing something else, and so we had no idea what they were cheering, because it didn't make sense that they were cheering what was on screen, because there was nothing happening. It was just like the Bucks posing or whatever. So just a lot of weird spots here. Camera cuts have always been an issue in this match, because again, there's just too damn much going on. There's no way to catch it all. I would like to see a moratorium on this for a couple of years, especially where, I mean, AEW runs Blood and Guts yearly now too. Their iteration of War Games, and it comes in like July. So you realistically have to have these 4 to 5 man teams set up twice within the span of 2 months, and it really hampers you creatively. Now, maybe they move that around this year. The schedule is a little bit different. Obviously, Forbidden Door happening in August instead of June. You have All Out happening in July instead of August. You have or All In happening in July instead of August. You have All Out happening at the end of September instead of the beginning. So they did move some stuff around. Maybe Blood and Guts gets moved around too. I don't know. Or maybe they don't do it. I'd like for them to take a 1 year break on one of the two. So if they don't do Blood and Guts this year, I mean, more power to them, I guess. But I don't think that's what will happen.
Nope.
Sean, I want to get your thoughts here on this as a whole. Go ahead.
Yeah. I texted, or I messaged Frank right after, and I said, I'm glad this S is over. That sucked ass. That sucked ass. Everything about that match, absolutely. I didn't care about the spots. After they did the music, I was out. I was done. When they started doing that crap, I'm like, forget it, man. I'm not getting invested in this. When you
knew they were going to do it.
No, but it's stupid. Why am I going to take a serious act and you're going to do that for 10, 15 minutes, and I'm supposed to take anything you do seriously? And then, like, the friggin' staplers, I hate that crap. It's stupid. I'm not laughing at any of it. I'm just like, this is effing stupid. Like, why is that funny to people that I'm going to get my tongue stapled? Why is that funny to anyone? It takes you out of the... AEW fans, I'm sorry. This is stupid. You cannot defend this unless you are there and you're in the middle of it and you're cheering. I want to get mad at the fans, but I can't, because they're there and they're excited. They're there. They're paying a lot of money. They're trying to get invested in what's going on. All of it was just awful. The show was already bad enough to me, and this freaking took it. If there was, I mean, it was already at the ground. This went way deep below the ground after this match was over, because this was freaking dumb as all hell. I'm sorry how anybody could like this on TV watching this crap and tell me that WWE does it. Everybody hated it, but AEW, everybody loves it all of a sudden. Get the freak out of here. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's idiotic. Swerve. I love Swerve. Why is he in this? I love Omega. I like these guys. Why are they having to be... And I like Willow, and even Marina's been good, and like, they do this crap, and it's just, come on. I'm just over it, guys. I'm sorry.
Here's the question. That we should ask ourselves. They've been doing Anarchy in the Arena, I think, since 2022. Was that the first one? I don't remember.
That sounds
whatever.
Right. That sounds right.
Spring, the Stadium Rush was 20, or Stadium, whatever it was, Spring Stampede, Stadium Stampede, whatever it's 20.
Stadium Stampede, yeah.
Whatever. What do you remember about any of these matches? I'm going to tell you what I remember about these matches. The music playing this year, 20 million spots. Last year, singing the Final Countdown.
Right.
The year before, Kenny Omega afterwards saying, "Hey, trust us. I've got another friend. I'm going to get him." I don't remember anything about the matches. I barely remember who was in them. That's the question. Like, what do you... And that's the thing. Like, you take nothing from these matches. There's nothing that's accomplished.
Nope. Nope.
And they're not even being used as exclamation points on a feud anymore because they're saving that for blood and guts.
Samoa
That's what
Joe
they've
in this.
historically done the last couple of years.
Samoa Joe in this. And I love Samoa Joe. Why is he in this crap?
Calendar event, brothers. Calendar
So
event. That's where we are.
WWE didn't do music with this crap. They didn't even do that stupid crap. They just had stuff, and you're like, all right, it's dumb, but they didn't make it unserious by having a bunch of music and people singing music. Come on.
It does feel like a lot of AEW TV feels to me, and it's that it's a wrestling product that is trying to get you to be invested at an emotional level, but is presenting the show in a way that runs counter to conventional wisdom on that. What I mean is that it's presented as a show that knows it's a show and everyone is in on it and everybody's having a great time and isn't this awesome, and that's all that matters. If the crowd is chanting AEW, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if they're telling satisfying stories. It doesn't matter if the match, the violent, blood-filled gore fest is a joke to everyone because they think it's fun. And I think that's the way Tony runs this company. I think and I think it's going to continue to be that.
AEW is a lot of performance over wrestling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of performance over wrestling. And, that's I'm going to take a beating for this. As much as I love Will Ospreay is a lot performer than he is. He's a lot more performer than he is wrestler. Okay. And believe me, he is great at what he does. There's no question about it. But, Hangman, and I know I'm talking about a different thing than Anarchy in the Arena, but, Hangman to me is more wrestler than he is performer with a story and a background. You know what I mean? Like with a storyline that they've been telling over a long period of time. So at least they went in that direction with that. So I'll give him credit for that. But this, it's a performance. It's a rock concert. It's a guilty pleasure. It's, for people that like that. And a lot of people do like that stuff. People in the arena like that stuff. But what is it doing for your business? How is this advancing your business? How is this advancing your television? How is this pulling people in to watch Dynamite every week? The three of us are going to watch Dynamite. They don't got to worry about us, okay? It's the rest of the people that are dropping off. And this isn't helping.
I should want to after watching that for 37 minutes or 35 minutes or whatever it was. I wish I could get that part of my life back. I really do. I really do. That was so just disappointing. I mean, and the show was already, like I said, I'm a thumbs down. If you can't tell, I'm a thumbs down. The main event, as good as it was, and I'm mad that Ospreay didn't win. I think he should have. So I just think it was a bad show all around. I just didn't think it was a very good show, and it just, you feel like you wasted $50, of your hard-earned money that you pay, and you want to get good out of this. And the matches were not even as good as they've been in the past. I mean, the matches were good, but they weren't great other than the main event. Yeah. I mean, they were fine, but I could have seen any of them on Dynamite. I'd have been just fine seeing them. There was nothing special other than the two Owen matches. Those were both good. I was excited about those going in. Other than that, guys, I wasn't excited about a lot of the stuff they were doing on this show going in, and they proved it to me tonight. I was not happy with almost everything they did other than the two matches. Mercedes and Jamie wasn't even the best Mercedes match that she's had. It was fine, but it wasn't anything spectacular that just blew me away. So I was very thumbs down on this show, and I don't know. I want them to succeed. I watch it every week. Dynamite. And then in a couple weeks, guys, they're doing a 4-hour special event.
4 hours, yeah.
Wow.
I texted Brandon about that. I said, the hell we need another 4-hour show for? I just sat here for 4 hours.
I've
4 hours. Come on.
So I don't know.
I'm definitely higher on this show than you are, Sean. I don't think that this is I don't think it's, a super memorable AEW pay-per-view for the books or anything like that. But I think that the number of bad AEW pay-per-views have been few and far between, and usually they're related to, the Moxley world title picture, or when the MJF and Adam Cole stuff was at its peak. I think they were putting on some bad shows during that run. I thought this was good. I thought that it was hampered and held back by a lot of the things that AEW pay-per-views usually are hampered and held back by, which is that they're overbooked, they're too long. I totally understand Tony's motivation in wanting to give fans value for their money because they're paying a lot to watch these shows, and that is not the expectation in 2025. WWE changed what people expect to pay for premium events with the introduction of WWE Network and later Peacock. And so Tony, I think, understands that and wants to provide a specific value to fans who are paying big money for these shows. But I think you can still do that with a tighter event. And I think that you're benefited but in more than one way by doing that. For starters, you're giving fans at home a tighter show that feels more meaningful because the matches that are on the card really deserve to be there. It doesn't hurt that a lot of people have to work on Monday morning when they do these shows on Sunday and don't want to be up until, midnight, 12:30. I get that tonight he probably figured he had an extra half an hour in the tank because tomorrow is Memorial Day or today is Memorial Day. But I don't think that's a good excuse to run an extra half hour just because you think that the majority of your audience has the day off. And then I think from the perspective of the live audience who's paying to be there, they're not going to feel disrespected by getting a 3-hour and 10-minute show over a 4-hour and 30-minute show. No. In fact, they're probably going to feel more fulfilled because they're not worn out. I can take whatever objective or subjective opinion on the quality of the matches or the quality of the show overnight overall that people want to throw out. But I think it's pretty objective to say that the crowd was burnt out by the main event tonight. They did not have a lot left, and they tried really hard. They came up for the big spots, and there were This Is Awesome chants, and there were Fight Forever chants, and there were dueling chants, but there wasn't the gusto behind any of them that there were for matches earlier in the night. And that's not because this crowd was not invested in Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. It's because they were burnt out. They had been there for 4 hours at that point of a main pay-per-view card, plus 2 hours of a pre-show if they showed up early, and they were just starting their main event. This is what happened to WrestleMania cards when they were 6 hours long. This is what happens with AEW cards when they run this long. There's just no benefit to it. And I think this is another show that was hurt by that prospect. And I don't think it's going to change. I don't think that Tony is going to relent on this thing. I think at this point, one of the best things that could happen for AEW is getting these pay-per-views on Max, the stateside. I think that
I agree.
The proposition of asking people to pay $50 a month, especially when you're doing 9 or 10 of these a year now, is getting harder and harder to do. And I think that the pay-per-views have taken a dip in quality since they have expanded the lineup too, because they are decidedly booking them later than they used to, so that they can fill their quota for TV, because they still have to build their weekly TV too. They want eyes to tune into that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, Frank, obviously Sean is a thumbs down. I'm a thumbs in the middle, bordering on a mild thumbs up. Before we close this out, where do you fall?
Yeah, I can't go thumbs up. I didn't dislike it enough to go thumbs down, but I will go thumbs in the middle. And I think the issue for me is the lack of matches that had emotional investment. I mean, you really only had 2 in the Owen Hart matches. Outside of that, there was no emotional investment in anything, predictable finishes and, the whole Anarchy in the arena stuff. Nothing really outside of the Owen stuff got furthered for me. So I think, but, the action was still overall good. I mean, that's not the problem with AEW. The action is going to be
Never
good.
is.
I mean, I can tell you, I've been watching 95 WCW, and that shit is thumbs down. That's like way down. Okay, so I'll show you thumbs down pay-per-views. But yeah, as I said, the lack of investment and the lack of matches that really were compelling. Put it at a thumbs in the middle for me, and the length and the length that's an issue.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say I had something I was thinking about. I just like I said in the storylines, I'm not loving the storylines either. Like I again with Hangman, it's fine. It's just the story they're telling is not great. Like the story with Hangman's fine, just the story they're telling as a whole is not great. And it's like, just to get me invested in 2 matches and all the bad stuff that was on, it was just like, yeah, I just had to go thumbs down. I just, I think they're still in a rough place. And people say that it's getting better. I don't know if I agree. I mean, just because you have 2 really good matches for All In doesn't mean you're on a high or you're doing great or there's still a lot of things they have issues with that they need to fix in a lot of different ways. And Collision, they're never going to make that a meaningful show. And that hurts it too. I want them to make that feel like if you're going to have it, make it feel meaningful. And they just don't. They just put matches on there. So I want it to change. I love it. I'll still watch Dynamite, but I want it to be better. I really do.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We made it through. I'm going to do a quick VIP plug here for those of you who are already VIP members. You, of course, know all the benefits that you get. For those of you who are on the fence, now is always anytime's a good time, but now's a great time. We're heading into the summer months, busy months for both WWE and AEW. You can do that at pwtorch.com/go VIP. Gets you a ton of cool stuff, ad-free podcasts, VIP-only podcasts. You get 35 years of the podcast and newsletter archives, a weekly PDF newsletter, ad-free version of The Torch, and so many great VIP shows, including The Fix with Todd Martin, the Wade Keller Hotline, everything with Rich Fan and Wade as well. You get the post-event roundtable podcast, which I know that Wade and company were recording when we went live. It's probably available on demand now. You get Greg Parks Out Loud, which is a weekly version of the great Greg Parks written column read out loud by him, of course. You also get the one and only Frank Peteani's show, Pro Wrestling Then and Now. Frank, are you part of the regular lineup now? I always forget. You're not VIP anymore.
So it is a VIP show on the audio side.
It is, okay.
But I do it live on YouTube, so it's free on YouTube, and the audio only version is on the VIP side. This Wednesday around, I would say 1:00 Eastern, somewhere around there, John Mazzaro will join me, and we will be looking at the first WWF In Your House from 1995. So really looking forward to talking to John. He's been with me on the 1995 run since the beginning of the year. So really looking forward to that. And what's interesting is that is the start of the monthly pay-per-view cycle. So we're really kind of at the beginning of when that all started. So it's been about now 30 years since we've seen that. And, the pay-per-views and the way they're laid out has changed a lot over that time period. So always great to have John on. And as I said, In Your House 1 will be the topic of discussion. We have live chat, so you guys are welcome to join on, comment. I try to put up as many comments as I can. And as Brandon mentioned, it is on the VIP side. The audio-only podcast is on the VIP side.
Cool. That's definitely something to check out on the VIP side for sure, along with all the shows I mentioned. I want to thank you, Frank, and you, Sean, for joining me on this on this review of Double or Nothing. It was certainly great to have you both. I want to thank everyone in the chat for joining us as well, inputting their comments and their opinions on this one. I will be back soon enough. I believe our next show will be Money in the Bank in just a couple of weeks, so you can catch me there. In the meantime, again, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. This has been Wrestling Night in America. Until next time.